Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Bound, Rebound, our pre-show virtual red carpet. My name is Joel Ivany, and I am the artistic director of Against the Grain Theatre, and I'd like to welcome you here tonight. I want to acknowledge that Against the Grain Theatre is on Treaty 13 territory, the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is home to many other diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We're grateful to be able to share this land. Personally, I am zooming in or virtually joining from Treaty 6 territory in Miskawasi-Waskahikan, also known as Edmonton. As we are all witnessing the war playing out in our news feeds over the last month, I wanted to just publicly acknowledge and share that Against the Grain Theatre stands in solidarity with Ukraine and its people. We hope for a peaceful resolution that recognizes Ukrainian sovereignty and its vibrant culture. Welcome to the virtual red carpet for Against the Grain Theatre's production of Bound. Today's a pretty big day for a lot of different reasons. Today is World Theater Day. If you're a supporter of theater anywhere in the world, we celebrate that today. Today is also the Oscars. You may have heard of that as well. And what better fitting way for us to go head to head with those Oscars than to premiere one of our own films. We're just under 1 hour to premiere our film. I have it at about 57 minutes and about 30 seconds until we go live with that. And we have a wonderful array of artists who will be speaking with us today. We have, and I'll just list them off, and we'll see if we may or may not see them, but you will hear from them in the next hour. We have conductor Nathan Brock with us. We have, oh, and there he is. Hello, Nathan.
Hello.
We have Dr. Zulfikar Herji.
Hi,
Hello,
Joel.
Zulfikar. Good to see you. We have soprano Miriam Khalil.
Hello.
Hi, Miriam. Great to have you here. We have composer Kevin Lau.
Hello.
Hey, Kevin. Great to have you here. We're going to keep seeing how many we can populate on this screen. We have soprano Brianna Sinclair.
Hello.
Hi. We have DOP, Director of Photography and Editor Dylan Toombs here as well.
Hello.
We have tenor Andrew Haji with some spotty internet. We'll see how much we see of him. Oh, there it is.
Hi,
fantastic.
everyone.
And I believe Renata Arluk is there as well. Yay. Hi, Renata. Busy people. This room is full of busy people. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to hear from each of you in the next little bit. But Andrew, if you're okay, I'd like to start with you.
Sure.
So you're in Calgary. You're leading up to performances of Alfredo in La Traviata at Calgary Opera. Thanks for being us here tonight, because I know you have a rehearsal later today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
So, you know, you're an incredible singer. You're an incredible live performer. This is our, I believe, third digital project with you. And we all love and we need live performance. And it's so exciting that opera companies across Canada and North America are getting back into that. But what is something that you've taken away from all these digital experiences? Yeah, your performance in this film is incredible. And so, yeah, what can you, yeah.
Yeah, you know, people always say nothing beats live performance. And in so many ways, that's absolutely true. There's a visceral thrill that you get when you're sitting in front of a handful of people who are just screaming their lungs out at you, you know, with a 80-piece orchestra playing underneath them. And I think that is something that you don't necessarily get when you translate opera to the screen. But something to consider when you're up there on the stage, you know, singing, acting, sometimes dancing, the technical aspects of what you're doing can sometimes overshadow the storytelling. I mean, there's only so much an opera singer can do. We're only human, and it's kind of like, you know, doing this, you know, doing 17 different things at the same time. But when you do a recorded project like this, it really lets you focus on each aspect of the work independently, and really develop each aspect. I mean, you spend a few days in the recording studio laying down the audio track. You spend a few days recording the video. And then, of course, one of the longest parts is the editing process. And I think when you're doing a project on video, it gives us a wider palette to work with than if you were just putting something onto a stage. And I think with all the different components of Bound, you'll really see that in action with this piece. Now, of course, with the pandemic, when the pandemic hit and all the performance venues shut down, we all kind of had to fall back on these recorded things. It was the only way for us to really safely continue to perform. But now that things are, slowly starting to return to normal, or at least what the new normal is, I feel like these digital productions are going to continue to really thrive. They're valuable not just for the storytelling aspect, which I mentioned earlier, but as tickets can sometimes be a little pricey if you go to the opera. So by allowing people, either free or inexpensive access to this incredible digital content, it's helping us bring opera to a wider audience and a newer audience. People who might not know what opera is, or who might not be able to afford a ticket, or people who just don't want to come to a theater and sit for 3 or 4 hours to watch a show. So it's so important for us to keep expanding our audience and attracting new people. And I think projects like this really help to do that.
Absolutely. And you touched on it. Our film clocks in at 84 minutes, I believe. And that's a little more digestible, perhaps, for some who are experiencing this either for the first time or, kind of got used to a little bit of staying at home and want to be a little more choosy when they go out.
Exactly.
Andrew, thank you for making time to do this on such a big day. Your performances are coming up, but good luck in Calgary. And I can't wait for everyone to experience you in this film. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Awesome. A little bit into this, you may be new. Bound is a project that for Against the Grain Theatre has gone through incredible iterations over the years. This was a response to an event November of 2016 that happened, and it was fair enough to say there was a political event south of the border, which kind of caused Against the Grain to say, is there something political that we can do with the art that we make? The process, I'll quickly whip through this to kind of take us to where we ended up today. We held a workshop in 2017 with roundtable discussions and research. We had immigration lawyers come and speak to us. We were working with the 519 and invited community to come speak to us about their religion, about their traditions, about letting us ask questions that we weren't sure about. We then took the text. We asked singers to pick their favorite Handel arias, and they were involved. They were integrated in this process right from the beginning. And then what we did was we removed the text that was set in this traditional Handel music, and then we put in English text inspired by stories in the news, inspired by these interviews that we were doing, and in fact, inspired by other real people in the world, so to speak. We reacted. We then presented a public workshop with 8 singers and themes of fear, of isolation, of those moments where you're stuck and you're helpless and you feel alone. And that was an incredible moment where we invited the public. We had talkbacks with them, and that, right from the get-go, we had composer Kevin Lau, and what Kevin did, he took this music from, we narrowed it down to 4 characters, 4 singers, and we created an orchestral suite and score that was then publicly presented in 2018. It featured a chamber orchestra of, I believe, 13 players and gave us momentum for a stage production in 2020. 2020, I think we all know what happened then, which feels like forever ago, but the pandemic hit literally weeks before our very first rehearsal for a stage production of Bound. We then fast forward to 2021, and we were able to turn this project, Bound, into a film in association with Crow's Theatre and the incredible Toronto Symphony Orchestra. And so over the next now 50 minutes, we'll check in with some of those in terms of how it led to this iteration. What, as Andrew touched on, we're consuming opera differently, and as also, as he said, as we get back into live performance, we also believe that this digital experience in opera films aren't going away, and we're really excited about it. If this is intriguing to you at all and you're not yet registered, you have 48 minutes to still go to our website, atgtheatre.com/bound, to nab your free ticket. We make our content available for free for everyone there. You can register to watch right there. It will begin in about 48 minutes, and we're really excited to do that. Another iteration that happened for this film is we took the music, we took the narrative, and then we started bringing in real people to tell their stories, which is something we believed in and wanted to support from the beginning. One of those stories is named Cindy Rivers, and the film has musical avatars, performances that enhance the story that you hear. So Cindy's story is enhanced by soprano Brianna Sinclair. And Brianna, I'd love to talk to you a little bit here about our experience with Bound, this opera, and coming up to Canada. Hey, Brianna.
Hello.
So this is your Canadian debut. It was meant to be something else. In theory, your professional operatic debut. We're so thankful that you were able to perform with us and come up to Toronto. And I've just got a question for you. It's no secret, I think, that you're hungry and eager to play roles that are in the standard repertory. And I guess as we did Bound, and as you're kind of looking ahead to future opportunities, what are some of the dream roles that you would love to play?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you, Joel, and thank you Against the Grain Theater Company for just inviting me to be a part of this very immersive and powerful experience. I think, especially as a trans woman, our opportunities are very slim. And so just to have the opportunity to use my voice to tell my story, to tell Cindy's story, to tell stories that are universal is such an honor. I just found out that Bound has been going on for 6 years, so that was just a total shock to me. So I was just like, wow, and I mean, it's just very amazing just to see how much it has developed. And but as a trans woman who has experienced so much, just like my trans peers, through homelessness and through variations of abuse, I think it can be very challenging to do any career, not just as an opera singer, but any career, because our resources are very slim. And so, we have to fight for our existence and fight for our survival. So before I transitioned, it's pretty cliche. I started off as a tenor, but I had a 4-octave register. And so my teachers came up to me and they're like, we need to utilize other parts of your voice. And so, I transitioned from mezzo, soprano to now soprano. I can't believe that I can sing to the stratospheres at this point in my life, very comfortably and strong. And so, I worked with Shari Greenewald at the San Francisco Opera for 2 years, and she kind of gave me that gutso power and strength for me to sing soprano repertoire. I got my master's from the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. I got my bachelor's from Cal Arts. And I think now, I would love to play Rusalka in Dvorak, because I love mermaids. And I used to be obsessed with The Little Mermaid when I was a child, and I dreamt of being Ariel for days. My mother thought I was insane. And I would love to play Rusalka by Dvorak, Aida by Verdi, maybe some Carmen in the future by Bizet. So those are, roles that I would love to pursue. And there are others as well. But I do think that I'm at a position in my life that I am transitioning kind of out of the trans roles, and I really want to be casted mostly as a female character. And so I recently just got accepted to the German Opera Academy this summer, and I got casted
Fantastic.
as Gertrude in Hansel and Gretel. So, and that is a female role. So it's really nice. And I just hope that the opera world will be more open to having trans artists play other than just trans roles. But this role means a lot to me, in Bound, playing Kelly Davidson, because it really helped me just understand the importance of visibility and what it means to so many people.
Brianna, what's amazing is through this process, you've taught me personally, you've taught our company, you've taught so many others that sometimes we can make mistakes and sometimes we can put our foot in our mouths, but you have shown grace, you have shown patience, and in fact, we're learning. And I think that's what you're saying, that we have to be a little bit less fearful and just sort of trust and listen and give opportunity. And so thank you for doing this. Thank you for listening to an offer from a pretty small company in Toronto, Ontario. And tonight we celebrate you and your performance in this incredible film.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Brianna Sinclair, an amazing performer person. Please look her up. She's going to be doing amazing things in the world, already has. Thank you, Brianna. There is about 42 minutes left, and you can register for this film, which is free, by going to atgtheatre.com. You can grab your phone, you can grab an iPad and sign up while you're watching us here, or however, you can open another tab and do it. It's free, easy to do, and we're still going to be here and talk to all the people who made this film possible. And this film's not easy to create. We've gone through some major hurdles to create some of the content that we have because of the pandemic that kind of made things really challenging for the last 2 years. Recording the music proved difficult, and not without its challenges. One aspect that worked out though better was the ability to enhance the musical side. And because of our collaboration and work with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, we had an incredible success with Messiah Complex, a film that we made that was released right at the end of, I believe, 2020. And sort of, it was seen in over 50 countries around the world. And we were both excited to collaborate with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra again. They were, which was amazing. And leading the Toronto Symphony Orchestra in this recording was conductor Nathan Brock. Nathan.
Joel, great to see you.
Good to see you too. So we were all set. We were all ready to go. We had meetings in the theater. The stage production was going to happen. You were there. You were excited. And then it was all shut down. Everything shut down. And I guess coming back to this piece in a different context, in a different way, how did you find that connection between Handel, a composer that we all know and love, and also Kevin Lau? What's Kevin done that's made this piece unique as someone interpreting this music and leading great musicians?
Sure, yeah. First, I have to say thanks, Joel, to ATG, you, and Kevin for bringing me in on this project. If there is a silver lining, you're absolutely right. I mean, we had everything set up. We were all ready to go. We had developed another version of the score. I don't know if you remember. There were a lot of details in there. If there is a silver lining in all of the shutdowns and everything else, it's great that we got to reimagine this again. And we got to do this again in the format that we did. I think it's really stunning the way that it's all turned out in the end. So the germination of the piece you spoke a little bit about at the beginning as well. And I think in the beginning I wasn't there. I should be mentioned that 6 years ago I wasn't there yet. It came on relatively closer to 2020, I guess 2019, 2018, when I got brought in on it. And speaking with Kevin about it, yeah, it was meant to be kind of this mashup, as you mentioned, different singers choosing the arias of their choice, and put into its own work in that sense. But somehow that's completely transformed. Kevin completely transformed that into this very unique oratorio, for sure inspired by all of these musical ideas and the music of Handel, but really it's wholly in the voice of Kevin Lau himself. I think this is particularly challenging. I mean, most composers have a very difficult time writing in the vernacular of another composer or the vernacular of another era. There are, of course, a few successful examples, like a Prokofiev classical symphony, or like the neoclassical works of Stravinsky, You can hear like a Shostakovich admiration from all. Kevin does what all these great composers manage to do. He takes kind of the style or an affect or the medium. Sometimes it's a piece or it's a quote, a little bit of an homage, and he blends all of this together into something that's uniquely his own work. And he does it very well and tastefully, where it's not sort of a pastiche of different Baroque opera scenes or a collection of quotations or anything like that. It's all Kevin. It's all original. It's quite unique. He has his own voice as composer, which is really on full display here. You'll hear in the music, there's a blending of extended instrumental techniques. There's quite a lot of use of pre-recorded or re-recorded and mapped onto the recording that we've made, digitized sound effects, atmospherics, but all the while he keeps up sort of these Baroque conventions that we're familiar with, either in direct imitation or in reimagined imitation. We have like a French overture, fugues, ritornello arias, or some recitativi. The whole thing begins distinctly Handelian with this French overture, but really there's the listener is challenged from the get-go. We'll leave a little secret in there for everyone out there to discover where, at what point the music goes from Handel to Lau and back, and he kind of threads this needle really, really, really beautifully. And as the course of the evening develops and unfolds beautifully with the drama of the story, the music becomes sort of increasingly angular, sometimes almost aleatoric, dissonant. But then it all ends with this beautiful sort of doff of the cap from Kevin with Handel's hopeful, peaceful, albeit it's reimagined in Kevin's voice, pastoral ode that steals the morn. So I think it's quite a unique accomplishment what Kevin managed here. Bravo to Kevin. So. Yeah, and bravo to the musicians who played it.
Yeah. And like that, a good thing that, we can reveal here is I think that the singers were not at the recording of the instrumentalists. That was kind of, again, COVID and all that stuff. There were concerns. And so the singers were recorded separately. And how challenging was that aspect of it to sort of then take the recording that we did and then go into the sound studio with singers?
Brilliantly challenging, absolutely challenging. I mean, so I think it's one thing to do a work, obviously, that has some familiarity, that people have sung before, that people have heard before. You can come into an overdub session. That's not altogether uncommon. Lots of great opera recordings from maybe 50, 40 years ago. Some of them were, in fact, done that way on purpose, not always publicly revealed to have been done that way, but that was often the way that it's done. With this, it's obviously quite a bit more challenging. You have a work that no one was familiar with, or some of the singers were familiar with or had done it in a different version. The tempos are obviously going to be a bit different. The points of reference, especially in sort of these longer aleatoric sections where it's difficult to grab onto exactly what is happening in the music, were challenging. So it was a great challenge. And I think for everyone, particularly for me, I was also in the studio helping out on the production side of things. So bringing the singers together with a little bit of familiarity with the music, a little bit of waving my arms, even, it was great. It was great. Not without its challenges, completely unique challenges. But I think, like I said right off the top, if there's a silver lining to the whole thing, to get to do some project like this with I think challenges that were different for all of us was just such a joy and such a pleasure.
Nathan, thank you. When you listen to this music, it sounds seamless. The singers singing with this orchestra, and I'm just so grateful that we had this opportunity and that we were able to do it despite the incredible challenges that we had. So, toi for tonight, and thank you again for doing this and for doing this project.
My pleasure. Thanks, Joe.
No problem. One of the singers who has been involved, just a quick clock, 35 minutes, still plenty of time to kind of stretch your legs. Go sign up and join us as we watch this film. One of the singers who's been involved with this project right from the beginning is soprano Miriam Khalil. And I'm going to bring in Miriam, and I know she's got some little ones possibly in the background, so we may hear some of that. But Miriam, hi, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. This film deals with stories, personal stories, stories that deal with isolation, with others, this othering factor as well. And we'll get into a little bit of that, but also you've performed in some of these Handel works that we've chosen music from in the proper Handel setting, meaning you've sung in a Handel opera where you sung that aria. So I guess these Handel arias, now that we're looking at them in a brand new way, what goes through your mind as a singer, knowing these familiar tunes and these familiar contexts, but then seeing that done in a brand new way?
Well, I think as a singer, as a performer, you always are faced with different challenges. You're given a context that maybe you didn't quite imagine when you were preparing the role. When you walk into the room, it's a different concept. So this is not a new, an unusual thing. But in this specific context where we were able to choose the arias that we sort of wanted to pull apart and reimagine, or we wanted Kevin to reimagine, it kind of brings a new life to it. And specifically, one thing, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, I apologize if you did, but when we started the process, we had a whole week of speaking just and digesting and really sort of discussing all the issues that were that are being brought up in this specific film. And I know that these things have changed, but when you take on those issues that are so much at the forefront of what is happening in our world right now, and you insert them into these arias, they take on a whole new, not just meaning, but life. And the words that you put into the libretto and the music that Kevin wrote, and sort of imagined and pulled apart and sort of inserted, made it not so much what I have ever done with this music. And so it gave it a really new importance for me, and made it kind of a personal journey, more so than you would going in to play a role. And also knowing Rania, who I'm kind of her avatar, knowing her, and she came and spoke with us as well, that kind of brought on a whole new importance and weight to the words that I was imbuing, and then the music and the colors that that sort of embody this character, but also this very much not character, but the arias and the music that I've been given. It just kind of gives it a different, not just spin, but very personal.
Miriam, thank you. Personally, I think it's not a big spoiler alert that you've taught me a whole heck of a lot about different cultures. You're Arab. I didn't know too many Arab people before I met you, and you're Christian Arab. You're not Muslim. Through this process, we learned more about Muslim women and why they wear the hijab, why they don't. And this process has been enlightening. You personally, again, taught me so much. Thank you for being a leader in this industry, someone who's not afraid to show who they are. And also, kind of, as Brianna said, that you just love playing the traditional roles as well. And it's not one or the other, but and so thank you for that. You're an incredible performer, artist, and person.
Well, thank you for, again, having me be part of this project. I know in terms of like when we started this process, it was such an honor to sort of create this. It felt like it was a very collaborative process, especially with Kevin and you. And so that has sort of, it kind of gives you a lot of authority as an artist, not just in this specific work, but you can bring that forward. So I'm really grateful as an artist to have this opportunity.
Well, you're Ah My Soul. Ah My Soul is the name of, I guess the aria is one of those breathtaking moments in the film. I can't wait for everyone to see it. Thank you, Miriam, and we'll talk to you again soon. with all this talk, you must be a little bit curious about how it is. What is this film? It's got to be pretty good with all these incredible people. And so with just under 30 minutes to go until we premiere this film to the world, we'd like to show you the trailer. Maybe you have seen it, maybe you haven't. We're going to play that for you now just to give you a bit of context in sort of what you've heard and what you'll about to see.
The 24-year-old transgender woman was killed last Friday in Milpitas.
One of the issues people are divided about involves newcomers to this country.
Canada's a place where Muslims aren't safe. They aren't.
Islamophobia is real.
Flint's water problems began in 2014.
Friday marks 1 year since the death of Beloved Slater, a Pahokee trans woman whose body was found burned in a vehicle.
People in Flint cannot drink apologies.
What's my story? The first thing that comes to mind is my childhood home, growing up in Kuwait as an expat. I think the thing that comes to mind is the fact that I've moved around a lot.
I grew up not really understanding or knowing who I was or who I was allowed to be.
Complex. My story is complex, and it can't necessarily be captured in a soundbite.
That trailer said coming spring, and that night is tonight. In about 26 minutes and counting, we will premiere this film to the world. I'd like to bring in an incredible person, Renelta Arluk. Are you there, Renelta?
I am here. I am here.
Yeah. We did it, Renelta.
High five.
High five. Yes. Renelta, you're like, when we talk about, and we saw that these four storytellers, you're an incredible storyteller. You're a writer, you're a performer, you're a director, you're an incredible administrator. You're one of those people who do like everything. And just for this, we did Messiah Complex under ridiculous challenges, and we were able to come back and view another piece with a completely different context. So perhaps shooting this piece or working out, what was one of the biggest challenges, or yeah, would you say?
Definitely. Well, I mean, challenges are gifts. That's how I look at challenges. What wonderful gifts were we given during this project? And I think the beautiful gift was really listening to the stories of Zulfikar and Rania and Nadia and Cindy, and really bringing a voice to them, and then bringing that voice into opera. And so that, I think, was the most exciting. And then how we do that, you know, with distance, and how we do that in person, of course, just the logistics of it. But yeah, like what an incredible way to look at story. Just really humbling.
And just like, obviously, Messiah Complex tackled issues, big ones that our country is facing, and these issues are completely different and incredibly important as well. And so how do you feel, I'm throwing another one to you, these sort of political, or can art and politics sort of live in the same world, do you think?
Well, they have to, right? Because that's, I think our job as artists is that we have to speak to people and for people and with people and to be heard. And that's our, I think, our role as artists. And so when we think about politics, you know, we live our politics, you know, as Indigenous people, as people of color, we walk with our politics with us every day in our identity. And so how do we bring that forward in a way that can be heard? And I just think that Bound just does such great justice to the voices that are coming forward. And it's again, it's how many tears were shed watching the edits of each of the versions that we got to watch to get to today.
Renata, you have a gift with the way you tell stories and how comfortable you make people feel, and just seeing that is incredible. I'm so grateful to know you and work with you. Thank you for your work on this film, and I can't wait for everyone to see it.
Thank you, Joel, for inviting me to be part of it. I'm just so grateful. We're like this dynamic duo.
We are, and like hit after hit. So I can't wait for the next one.
Merci, Clinic.
Thank you, Renata. Okay, so a lot of people have a lot of questions perhaps about the music, with just about 22 minutes left before we go live. Is it Handel? Is it Kevin Lau? Why Handel? Maybe someone who could have some answers to that is the man himself. I'd like to bring in composer Kevin Lau to speak a little bit about the process. Kevin, hello.
Hi, Joel. Great to see you. Love your background.
Thank you. Yeah, very fancy. We'll take it when we can get it for sure. First off, congrats. This score is so beautiful. It is approachable. It is scary. It is moving, and it is beautiful. So huge kudos initially straight off there. But I'd love to ask you a question. What was the most, would you say, difficult part of writing music to either sound like Handel or be inspired by him and taking his music and moving it into a new world?
Yeah, it's, I mean, I think pretty much every part of this project was difficult on some level, but as Renata said so beautifully, challenges are gifts. And certainly this was one of the greatest gifts in that regard. I think, you know, for me, the two big challenges, I think the first one is really just the adoption of a new language. I think of Handel's music as being a language with its own syntax and vocabulary and its own conventions and nuances and exceptions. And so to embody the spirit of a composer who's been dead for quite some time takes a little bit of time. It's very much, again, like learning an actual language. And I remember many of my early drafts of this music sounded very much like kind of like broken, tentative, pale imitations of something that was really, really beautiful and really big. And I knew that I had to get deeper into the soul of the music in order to do this justice. I think, you know, you and I had talked way back in 2017, which feels so long ago now, about how this would actually work in practice. And I think I didn't know how it would work, but I knew off the bat that we didn't want to have music that was kind of disembodied, so that it was like there's some Handel arias and then there's some Kevin Lau transitions and then there's some Handel arias. We knew that it had to be a hybrid. How that would work, I had no idea at the time. But my first step was really to adopt the language of Handel so that at some point, at least a little bit more confidently, I could write music through the Handelian lens, so to speak, and say something new, and it's really, really interesting too, because it's so outside of my comfort zone, but you actually discover a part of yourself, I think, when you are looking through the eyes of another composer. And this idea of empathy and responding to the dignity of everybody, I think is such a great metaphor for what we were trying to accomplish. And then I think the second thing was just really trying to find a way of actually modifying Handel's music so that it would not only support the story that you're trying to tell, but would sustain itself over a long period of time, over the course of an hour plus. And to that end, like, you can't really deconstruct Handel using the same techniques over and over again. You have to kind of come up with a whole variety of different things. And so as Nathan so like wonderfully alluded to, like, there are different parts of the score that do different things. There are parts where I wanted it to sound like Handel, but with cracks in the surface. And then there are other parts where I wrote original music, but wanted people to think that it was Handel. And then there are still other parts where I took Handel's music and basically preserved everything, but then dressed it up in such a way that people would just assume that it was a contemporary work, and just trying all of those techniques, throwing them at the wall, seeing what stuck, and having your generosity and just the brilliance of all of these collaborators on this project to really help realize that vision was such a privilege for me.
And the unique challenge as well is just most of this music was written for a staged experience. And Against the Grain, we're kind of known for intimate experience where you're up close to the action. And that would have been one thing, which is, we were working towards that, which would have been fantastic, and then crushed by the news of the pandemic and what was happening. And then to turn this into a film, it's not like you can just flip a switch and it works that way. And so a lot of that is woven in with the editing, which we'll get to Dylan, who did a fantastic job. But I guess that's a unique challenge too, is how accessible that music is to work for a completely different medium as well.
Yes, absolutely. And hats off to you and Nathan and Dylan and Renata and just the whole team for actually, in some ways the composer's job is hardest at the beginning, but it gets increasingly easier, because once I had birthed much of this music in around 2018, it was really up to people who were had much more expertise in all of these other areas than I did, to take that music and to transform it in the way that you have. And in many ways, I'm watching this chat almost as a spectator, and I haven't watched the full film yet. I've seen little bits and pieces of it, but I'm so excited at what I've seen, and so amazed at what you've accomplished with such a different starting point.
Well, Kevin, Toy, thank you for being Against the Grain Theater's first ever commission. We've never commissioned a composer until we started working with you. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of fueled a new direction, or an added direction to our work that we're doing. But your music and your passion, sharing it with our community, thank you. Huge congratulations. And I really hope you enjoy tonight's film.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. That was Kevin Lau. We have about 16 minutes and 25 seconds-ish, if you're counting, before you can see this film, Bound. Again, if you're just joining us, perhaps you just kind of stumbled upon it. We have a new film premiering, 16 minutes. You can register for free to watch this. You can share it with anyone. Bound, you can go to atgtheatre.com/bound to find it. And there's no going wrong here, because it's free for you to watch. It's our kind of gift back to the community, as we've all been, enduring through the last 2 years. And it's something that may just kind of shake you up and sort of hear and see things in a brand new way. We tell the story of 4 storytellers, and a powerful story that is still, it's not finished. It's still being written and being told, is that of Zulfikar Herji. Zulfikar.
Hi, Joel. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
You look great amongst those statuettes there. So I think it's wonderful to see you.
How are you? How are the nerves? Are you a little excited?
I always told you I'm very wooden on camera, so that continues. But thanks for asking.
Nice. We've known each other throughout this entire, longer than this entire project. the inception, it was sort of as we presented Aire at the Ismaili Center back in 2016 is a fantastic project that changed a lot of our ways that we do art and produce. We've seen the growth and change that this project has taken. And then all of a sudden you became one of the stars. Your story is so powerful and it's so honest. And I guess a question is, how can we become better citizens, perhaps when we see this, when we see some really heavy themes presented in this film, racism, bullying, prejudice, what's your wisdom in how we can sort of approach this?
I don't know if I have wisdom, but I guess, you know, when we see these things happen in our society, that is when we actually see them in front of our eyes. It's perhaps really easy to kind of call them out, or at least witness them in a way that, you know, moves us to make some comment or change happen within ourselves, or to call it out in society. I think what's more challenging is the stuff we don't see. You know, the structural racism, structural prejudice, things that are not absolutely apparent to us, but we kind of know are there, or we sense that there's something not quite right. All those glass ceilings that people hit, you know, in employment places, people being sort of pulled over to the side of the road for no reason except for the fact of the color of their skin, people being, you know, sort of denied opportunities because of the inequities that are deeply rooted in our societies. That stuff, which we don't see, I think is much more challenging to address and to deal with. It requires, I think, a kind of fortitude, because it means changing those structures. And I think that's been the biggest challenge, is that, you know, our societies are really good at that moment when we can say, oh, that's wrong. But it's much more difficult to say, I'm going to really figure out why and how we arrived there and what we can do to change that, you know, in a more sort of permanent way. So I think that's really the bigger thing. And I think this project has really kind of demonstrated to me that, you know, because of its long gestation and the efforts that you've taken to reflect on your own selves within this, and all of us have had to do that, I think that's really the starting point, is that, you know, we do have to understand our own prejudices before we can kind of start to dismantle them in society. But I think this, you're, you know, against the grain is like, I mean, this is the most fantastic collaboration I've been involved in, and I think that I really can't thank you enough for including me as part of this wonderful group of performers and storytellers. I'm so humbled by all of you.
Thank you, and you know, we reciprocate that. I think, like you say, and you don't know this necessarily because you haven't necessarily seen the film, but you say in the film, like, you'll tell your story to someone who will stop and listen. And I'm just so grateful that you shared what you have shared. You're incredibly vulnerable in sort of sharing what that experience is. And as you said, the world, we've kind of, especially in the world of classical music and opera, we have seen the challenges, especially over the last 2 years, and we're all trying to do our best to address them. And part of that was fair to say that there was a trend to do that. And I think the ongoing challenge is, will we embed that into our culture of what classical music and opera can be going forward? And when you're not basing it, we have years of conversing together, of sharing together, of one of the highlights was speaking to a class of your students when they saw the workshop in 2018. And another thing that I think this film addresses is that we don't kind of tie this up in a, like, we haven't found the answer necessarily in terms of, like you said, these are ongoing issues, and there's no sort of right, or there is a right answer, but we don't always come to it. So I just want to say a huge thank you for that, for being open to this. And yeah, you're an incredible person.
Well, it's great. It's great to work with you all, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this, as are many of my friends and family. They're a bit nervous about what I might say, but I'm hoping that it all works out well in the end. And I'm looking forward to many, many more years of working with Against the Grain and all of you. You're a wonderful, wonderful group of people. Thank you.
Zulfikar, thank you, and again, thank you for this, and I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, we look forward to. Oh, there we go. This is on my end. This is almost like the bells to say this is your 10-minute warning. Oh, there they go. They're gone. Oh, almost gone. We'll come back to you in a little bit, Zulfikar, but thank you again, and toi 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 for tonight. You heard the chimes. It's the 10-minute warning. In just under 10 minutes, we will be premiering this film. We may end a little bit early in order to make sure you can stretch your legs, grab whatever you need to sit down and enjoy this. Be challenged, be made a little bit uncomfortable with this. And someone who poured in so much time, literal time, hours and hours and hours, way more than way more than he thought he was going to give, is Dylan Toombs. Dylan.
Hello, Joel.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. You were the director of photography. You brilliantly captured Savitri for us earlier in the year, which was kind of, we knew that there was something, this is the 8-minute warning. We knew that there was something magical in the way that you tell story through pictures. And I guess we'd never done anything like this, creating a documentary opera film. And I guess as we started diving into the piece, what are some of the moments or events that inspired you to keep this momentum going?
Yeah, for sure. So again, I just want to say thank you for bringing me in. There's a lot of trust, I think, that went along with this project, on everybody's part, but especially, telling these stories and, putting people in front of the camera and also editing it. A lot of trust goes into that. So I want to thank you for allowing me to put those together. But I never had an experience creating something like this before. I've had experiences creating documentaries, and I have experience doing, filming performance pieces, but never combining something into like a hybrid that we created. So I think when you reached out to say, we want to create this, I have this idea, it was really exciting because I hadn't worked on anything like this. And frankly, I'd never really seen anything like this before. So that was really interesting to me. And, to kind of dive in this was difficult. And like you said, I think that there was a lot of times where you kind of needed motivation to kind of keep going. And I think that, filming the interviews and listening to Rania, Nadia, Zulfikar, and Cindy open up about their life experiences, that really inspired me to keep moving and to do my best to get it right. I wanted to make sure that, we honored what they told us and what we were trying to convey with that. So spending time with it, spending time with the material, meeting them beforehand before doing the interviews and having the conversations, I think was such an important thing that we did. And then, ultimately having these long talks with them, and then again, just sitting with the material. I think all together we created something that was really unique and really important. I think what I'm kind of most proud about is everyone's kind of willingness to create an experimental film, not really knowing what the final form would be. Again, that takes a lot of trust, and it's scary because you're not really sure what it's going to look like because you've never really seen or been a part of something like that before. But at the end, I think that we accomplished something really great.
And we met like 8 years ago at BAM Center for Arts and Creativity, and immediately I knew you were someone who was creative, who was kind, who was artistic, and I knew then that eventually somehow we had to get you working at Against the Grain Theatre, which now 2 projects. It's inspiring to see, and like you said, it's so important to tell to tell these stories. It's important to document, I think, what we've all gone through the last 2 years and the challenges that we have. And so, Dylan, thank you so much. A huge a huge, you deserve all these little gold statues around me because, yeah, you're the main star of this incredible film. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, everyone, there you have it. An incredible feat, an incredible amount of work that has gone into this. Our film premieres in just under 5 minutes. You still have time to register. The film is free and available until April 24th. But you know, you don't want to be waiting too long. You'd rather be one of the first to see it and then share it, and then you can watch it again and again. There is a content warning. It's not for children, so to speak, because of some of the issues that we deal with. But thank you for this. Thank you for joining us for this virtual red carpet. A huge shout out to Taylor Long, our virtual backstage manager. And to all of you who supported the making of this film and who support the work that we're doing at Against the Grain Theatre. We'll bring back, how about, if we can, Taylor, everyone who's still around for just one of those awkward Zoom wave goodbyes, to just say thank you for all this work. You're all incredible people. I hope you enjoy this, and toi 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 to you all.